Simcha, Or Zarua, Tat Tzadik, U'Yisraelem Simcha, Or Zarua, Tat Tzadik, U'Yisraelem Simcha, U'Yisraelem Simcha, Or Zarua, Tat Tzadik, U'Yisraelem Simcha, U'Yisraelem Simcha. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya Lecha Dodi, page 138 and 139. Tonight we're offering verses 1, 5, 8, and 9. On ninth verse, we rise and we face the doors to welcome Shabbat into our lives and into our community. Page 138. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Yekabela Tamor v'zachor B'dibur echad Yishmi'anu El HaMeyuchad Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad L'Shem U'Tiferet Ve'Letila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Tekabela Likrat Shabbat Lechu v'nelcha Mikor Haberacha Meirosh Vikerem Tezucha Sof Ma'aseh V'machshava Techila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Tekabela. Orech, Umi Ori, Uri Uri, Shir Daberi, Kevod Adonai, Alayich Nigla, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Shalom, Hateret Ba'ala, Gam B'Simcha, U'V'Tzola, Ochem Unei, Am Segula, O'Ichala, On page 140, we continue with Tov Lehodot. It is so good to offer praise and thanks to God, whether it's Shabbat or any day of the week.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. עלי עשור ועלי נבל עלי היגיון בכינור טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. ולזמר לשמך עליון.
As you probably know, we are a congregation that in June is going to be sending 30 people to Israel. 30 of us are going to Israel. We're all sending ourselves. But, so the cantor and I particularly are attuned to things happening in Israel. And I learned this week of a new program. I'm not sure if I even shared it with you. So there is something that one of our rabbis brought up on our listserv. And there seems to be a new program in Jerusalem, and it's for tourists, and it's called Shabbat of a Lifetime, right? So this is how it's described online. I know nothing about the program except what I read. It says, their website says, Shabbat of a Lifetime is, quote, an opportunity for incoming tourists of all backgrounds to experience an authentic Shabbat, in parentheses, Jewish Sabbath, at the home of a host family in the heart of Jerusalem. Participants receive an informative introduction to Shabbat while dining on a 5-course meal with their hosts. So, on the one hand, I have to say it seems a little odd that one would have to travel only to Jerusalem to have an authentic Shabbat. I just felt that was so interesting to hear. But it does challenge us, in a way, on the other hand, to say, what is authenticity for Shabbat for us? I think that for each of us, an authentic Shabbat is going to be something different. It might be a day of rest and contemplation. It might be a day of bike riding. God willing, the weather will be decent tomorrow. Well, that's questionable, right? Or it's simply a day of recreating and being with friends, being with family, being with a restaurant that you like, going to a movie that you haven't seen before. What is authentic to each of us? What does it mean to have an authentic Shabbat? Each of us should consider what that means as we enter Shabbat and as we take this day and its purposes into our hearts to give us a connection, not only with our tradition, not only with this tradition that we observe here at Temple Beth El, but also with ourselves and how we reach into ourselves to give ourselves this gift of rest. We invite you to turn to page 146. We begin our Ma'ariv service with Baruch Hu, page 146. We invite the congregation to rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
On page 149.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sees the way way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the seas, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set in course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows.
El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim.
Amen. At the top of 150.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbenu, uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. We continue at the top of page 154.
V'ahavta
et Adonai Elohecha
b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etechem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
We continue on page 157.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again, we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Page 158.
Ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye 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 bim bam, ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye 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 bim bam. Ay da 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 da, ya bye 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 bim bam. Ay da 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 da, ya bye 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 bim bam. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh. Norati lodo sefele, norati lodo sefele, ma'alechutecha ra'u vadecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze'eli anu ve'amru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay ay da 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 da, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay da 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 da, ya bye bye bim bam. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We continue on page 160.
Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen.
Amen.
This is, as you probably are aware, a men's club Shabbat, and we're so grateful for the men's club to be here with us tonight to put together the readings for this service. We now would like to invite all the men's club members who are comfortable to join us on the bima. This is in memory of Lou Swidarski and Julie. I'm so glad that you're here tonight, because when Lou was with us, he would lead this particular part of the service with great gusto and great joy. And we have worship tonight. We've thanked God for the regular rotation of the planet. We've thanked God for the gift of Torah. We've thanked God for redemption, and we've thanked God for being our divine protector. And now we're going to thank God for this gift of Shabbat. On page 162, the lower paragraph is Yismachu, done in a particularly memorable way for, again, keeping in mind the memory of Luz Vodarsky, who once led us so beautifully in Yismechu. Gentlemen, please come forward. You guys are standing too far back. No, we're going to stand back. You're going to, go ahead, forward. All right.
Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. V'kadoshei shevi Shabbat, kulam yismeu ve'itangu mitovecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidasho Shabbat, emdan yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Zeicher l'maaseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zeicher l'maaseh v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Shar kochachem.
We want to invite the congregation now to turn to page 165. On page 165. We invite the congregation to rise for the beginning of Tefillah.
So we doing that first?
No,
Okay.
take this.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened well.
Page 164.
Please join with me on 164. Adonai safatati ta ufi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, V'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanoran, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Ha'Kol, V'Zocher Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, Lema'an Shemo Bi'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham,
Ve'ezrat Sarah. 167.
Some perished by fire, some by water, some crossed the sea or watered the desert. Some starved all week to make a Shabbat feast. Some were left childless until old age. Some lifted their chins beneath the Father's knife. Those who came before us gave everything so that we, generations later, could glorify you. And despite the dangers, with your protection, some did survive and even flourished. Some reaped in joy, were spared the knife, were granted children. We are their inheritors, O God, and we know how rare is our good fortune to be born to such hard-won treasures. A great responsibility is ours and yours as well, for if you do not sustain us as you did Abraham and Sarah, Rebekah and Isaac, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, then who will sing your praises? Who will lift their chins as we do now to sanctify your name? Baruch atah Adonai, Kopei Sarah, U'Magen Avraham.
On page 170, we continue.
Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai.
170.
One more page.
My bad. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh Udoshim B'chol Yom Yelahalu Lasela Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated, and we continue on page 173.
May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Makadesh Shabbat.
Amen. On page 175.
You are with us in our prayers, our love, and our doubt, in your longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance, and let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yad na'avod.
Amen. On page 178, we continue with our yearning, our hope for peace. 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Top of page 179. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blessed our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavarach et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Amen. We now come to a time of quiet prayer, quiet meditation, understanding a few things. Silence, of course, does not mean indifference. Silence doesn't mean that we don't care. Sometimes silence is equated with wisdom because what does the old saying go, that better to remain silent and to be thought a fool than to say something and to have it confirmed or something like that, right? Silence can indeed lead us to thoughtfulness and mindfulness and bring us closer to the source of life. In the book of Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamaliel shared this thought with us. He wrote, "All my days, as I grew up among rabbis," he was the son of one of the sages, he says, "I found nothing better for the body than silence. Study or interpretation of text is not the most important thing, but rather practical actions, because whoever indulges in too many words misses the mark." Let us continue now tonight in quiet contemplation of the soul that we have inside and for the gift of reason to allow us to grow from the silence into people of integrity.
Yehiyu l'ratzon, imre fi fi והגיון ליבי לפניך.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך.
Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Vegoali.
Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Vegoali. Yehiyu leratzon imre fi, Vegon libi lefanecha. Yehiyu leratzon imre fi, Vegon libi lefanecha. Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Vegoali. Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Vegoali. Yehiyu imre fi, Vegon libi lefanecha. Yehiyu leratzon imre fi, Vegon libi lefanecha. Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Vegoali. Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Adonai Suri, Vegoali.
Yashkoach. Yashkoach. We want to invite the community to turn in the prayer book to page 371. As our evening continues, we have in our minds at this community time those who are ill, those who are in the hospital, those who are at home recovering from illness, God willing, and surgery, those whose hearts are broken because of illness, those whose families may be indeed torn asunder because of death, even because of the illnesses that confront them. And so we have about 85 people on our Temple Beth El healing list at this moment. And we also want to ask you, the congregants who are here with us tonight, it's not practical to ask people online exactly to offer those names we can hear, but if you'd like to add a name, you can in the comment section online. But if you are here tonight and would like to offer the name of someone for whom you would like to offer a prayer of healing or wholeness, we invite you to do so now.
Jody Gardner.
Thank you.
Harav bat Miriam. Harav Miriam bat David ve'anat. Are there others we should be thinking about? Dear God, aloud and in our hearts, we name those facing illness and pain. We join our prayer of Misha Berach, along with all those who pray for their well-being. At the middle of page 371, the part that's indented there, we continue with Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Tonight we have the pleasure during our men's club service of hearing from a member of the men's club who's going to offer a few words. They may be connected to this week's Torah portion. They may be from a different direction. But I'd like to welcome to our Bima Fred Gantz, who is a respected attorney in town and a member of Temple Bethel, active in Temple Bethel, active in Federation. And you can offer other places, Fred, where you are active. But we want to invite you to the Bima to offer these words of Devar Torah for tonight.
Thank you, Rabbi. For my Devar, I want to talk about change management and my thoughts on how to adapt to an ever-changing world of new challenges and stressors that we face. And in many ways, I think my comments tonight are very consistent with what we've seen and heard in this service. First point that I make, I'm very proud to be a Reform Jew, recognizing that it is important for our Jewish values to adapt and change and work for Tikkun Olam, to make the world a better place. I proceed with the assumption that most change is good. It's on something that may not be important for all of us. I will mention to you that I happen to be a baseball fan, and I believe that the changes coming to Major League Baseball are good. The time limitations are making pitchers more disciplined and result in shorter and more interesting games. And the limits on the shifts appear to be resulting in more hits and runs that will also make the games more interesting. Now, as we all know, and as we heard some references to tonight, not all changes are good. The Supreme Court's Dobbs decision restricting women's reproductive rights was a step in the wrong direction and changed something that had followed the Roe decision, which came down when I was in college. And I believe that we all need to work to do everything possible to ensure one half of our population can make their own reproductive choices. Similarly, rising anti-Semitism is a great concern, and we should endeavor to treat Jews and all groups with respect and kindness. My brother, who sadly passed away, was the Chief Justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Court, and after a former president made some very negative comments about Muslims, made sure to go to a Muslim church in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and made clear to all of its citizens that they were very welcome in Massachusetts as well. Contrary to those who sometimes think that the world ahead for our children and grandchildren will not be positive, I remain generally optimistic about our potential, similar to many distinguished leaders. I get a kick out of President Biden speaking all the time about optimism because it reminds me of my dad, who remained very optimistic and was always very encouraging about many situations. And similarly, I've enjoyed Rabbi Beitch's sermons, where he has emphasized the importance of optimism on numerous occasions. Now, to be realistic, I recognize that there may be some situations where if we can't be optimistic, we can always be hopeful. This was a point made by my college chaplain many years ago, a man who I thought was very inspirational, Reverend William Sloane Coffin, who was a major anti-war leader. And he always talked about the fact that when things are occurring, again, if we can't be optimistic, we can always be hopeful. For example, in the election that occurred last November, I was optimistic about the gubernatorial race, but only hopeful about the Senate race. It played out about the way I was thinking. You know, it was my grounds for optimism occurred in one race, but I could only be hopeful in the other race. And so I think back to having been in Terezin, a concentration camp this past year, where many Jews it was used as a holding place of Nazi propaganda. And many Jews were brought there, and it was promoted that this was a good thing for the Jewish people there, but in reality, what was really happening is there were movies made of how wonderful it was for the Jews and a government set up for them, but in the final analysis, almost all of them ended up being transported to Auschwitz or other concentration camps for extermination. So, but for those people, you know, one of the thoughts that I had is that they could do everything they could to be helpful and to be hopeful. And there was discussion about the fact that they worked very hard to be hopeful. Only a few ended up surviving, but the point comes down to, again, even in instances such as the Holocaust or in instances that are terrible in our society, we have to work to make the world a better place, be positive and courageous, and see how things go. And so that's my message. If we can't always be optimistic, we can always be hopeful. And thank you.
We'd like to invite the community to turn to page 123 in the prayer book. And we want to invite Leah and Sarah and their parents to join us again on the bima as they will help lead Kiddush. So that's page 123. Do you think they could be here with us? Yeah. Here's for you. Come and join us here in back of the main Amud here.
Previews.
Yeah, that's right. Leah and Sarah, why don't you hold the grape juice? Stand right here in the center. Yeah, you have to share the holding this. Got it? Okay, great. All right, friends, come closer. And on page 123, please join one another in the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon inchilanu, Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim. Take a sip as we like, if anyone wants to. Anybody who wants to may.
The congregation may know that a week from tomorrow, Leah and Sarah will be called to the Torah as Benot Mitzvah, And so you are welcome to join us a week from tomorrow on Shabbat morning, April 1st at 10:30, as we call them to the Bima as Benot Mitzvah. So thank you all for being with us tonight. You may be seated. Actually, go back to your places. We're going to ask you actually maybe to stay standing, because that's where we will be in the service. Because we want to invite the community now to turn to page 586, and everyone rises as we continue with Aleinu, page 586.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Please be seated. We continue on page 591.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech. May we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the sea, and light up the universe with joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
We continue on page 594. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love what death has touched. We remember at this time those who passed away connected to our community, those who died in recent days, and those who died in this season in years past. If you join us tonight observing a yahrzeit, or if you are in mourning, we invite you to rise as the name of your loved one is recited, and then we'll be joined by everyone as we recite the mourner's Kaddish. These are those whom we've taken into our hearts with our own. Our community's recent losses, we remember these dear relatives of our members: Annalie Sossman, mother of Jim Sossman, grandmother of Samantha and Jeremy Sossman; and Robert Abramovitz, uncle of Eliza Hoffert and great-uncle of Corey Hoffert. And these are the yahrzeit we observe at this time. In continuing love and devotion, we recall Wendy Lee Baker, Sherry L. Carter, Aaron Cohen, Marv Connie, Sarah Cutler, Lester Davis, Tinny Epstein, Joel Fantle, Bobby Frank, Kenneth R. Kaplan, Gary Kaufman, Molly Laitman, Morris Levy, Paul Martin, Robert Mueller, Elizabeth Peidelstein, Kathleen Lisa Putney, Lucille Roosevelt, Robert Ross, Irving Sarnoff, Irvin Schwartz, Ray Schwartz, Ethel Syker, Rose Silverberg, Barbara Snow, Harry Weissman, Arvin Weinstein. Those are the names of people that we knew about whose yard sites occur at this time and whom we are remembering. But you all worshiping with us tonight may have other people whom you are remembering. And if you would like to add your loved ones' names to this list, this Kaddish list, we invite you to do so.
Irving Israel Folberg.
Other people to be remembered. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be blessings in our hearts and the hearts and minds of all those who knew and loved them, testifying to the faith that binds the generations of humanity together. And in thanking God for all the gift of life, we now invite you to turn to page 598, and we invite the whole community to rise as we continue with the Mourner's Kaddish. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divera chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen, Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, shemei dekudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol bir chata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May God send peace to all who mourn and comfort those who remember on this night and always. And we say, amen. We invite you to be seated. In a few moments, our service will conclude, and when it does, we are invited to share an Oneg Shabbat in the Weinstein Community Court, which I'm told tonight is sponsored by the Women of Reformed Judaism, our TBE sisterhood members. We first want to send congratulations to the Golden family, and especially to Leah and Sarah, who again next week will be called to the Torah as Benot Mitzvah. Please be sure to join us then. I also want to thank the men's club, really, and all the people who participated in this service, and Sanford Karimi, who was the organizer of tonight's service participants. Thank you all for coming to this bima, and thank you for sharing remarks, Fred, and thank you for being here. Without our men's club, there's a little description in tonight's program as to what the men's club is involved in, and I believe it talks a little bit about what you're going to be doing on Mitzvah Day. So your menches spreading mulch. Now, how bad could that be, right? You will be menches spreading mulch at the Beit Olamim Cemetery, which is the newer of the Jewish cemeteries here in town. So you can see the things that they do. Please join them for that and all the things in which the men's club participates. I would like to thank Cantor Jacob Namey for being a wonderful, excellent Bima partner here as we continue the spiritual life of this community. And thank you all for joining us here. There are a number of brief announcements to make. First of all, tomorrow morning there will be Torah study for the first 5 parashiot of the book of Leviticus, which we begin reading on this Shabbat. We'll be studying a little bit from the parashah, but studying also some other other Tanakhic books, other books of the Hebrew Bible. So come to Torah study. That's at 9 o'clock here in the building, or you can see that on Zoom, or participate, I should say, on Zoom. Next Friday evening, there is a Social Action Shabbat. So at 6 o'clock, there will be a Social Action Shabbat dinner, and at 7 o'clock, a Social Action Shabbat service with a special speaker, Dan Lenz, who is a staff counsel at Law Forward, a special law firm here in Wisconsin that does a lot of work. He'll be talking about protecting our democracy. So please join us for that. And again, a week from tomorrow on Saturday morning, April 1st, we have the joy of celebrating with Sarah and Leah, and again, Torah study. So for more information on any of those or registration, please go to our website, tbemadison.org. I also want to tell the congregation, I mentioned it earlier, that we have 30 people going to Israel, leaving here, departing June 12th. And if you would like to be part of that group, there is still the opportunity to register. So if anybody has any thoughts about that, would like to maybe consider going, please see Cantor Nami, see me, and we'll see if we can convince you to be registered for that trip. I think it's going to be a really phenomenal trip for us. Any other announcements, Cantor, that you want to
say? Pesach is coming up soon, friends. So we have a first night potluck Seder for those who need a place to go for first night to join Rabbi Beich for that. And then the second evening we'll have a larger community Seder, second night Seder for anybody. Well, both are for anybody who wants to attend. But we have opened up the first evening Seder as a less formal potluck opportunity for, again, anybody who needs a place to go.
It's for our Bethel members.
And for our Bethel members, for who need a place to go for first night.
Yeah, definitely. So, being here with Men's Club is a very special honor. And to offer a closing song, I want to invite you to turn to page 4 of the supplement, and maybe Cantor Amy has some words to introduce us.
This is a Yiddish folk melody that I've done with Men's Club Shabbat in particular. Those we certainly could sing at other times. It was set to words by Morris Winchevsky, who was a Yiddish poet and a socialist, literally, actually, he was one of the founders of, people might know the magazine, The Forward. It's a
newspaper.
A newspaper, a magazine, rather. And so he was one of the original founders when it was still in Yiddish. So he wrote these words, and then I wrote some singable English for us to look at as well. But we're going to start with the I, because I think that that'll be a little bit of a better entryway for us into this. So the I's go like this. I, one more time. Wir seien alle Brüder, oi, oi, alle Brüder. Wir singen freiliche Lieder, oi, oi, oi. Und wir halten sich in einem, oi, oi, sich in einem. Selches ist nicht so bei keinem, oi, oi, oi. Ai, 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 ai. Ai, 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 ai. Ai, 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 ai. I'm going to actually ask so that we can really be all together in this for the English to have folks actually repeat it after me so we can really have it all in our kishkas. So I'll ask you all to repeat after me. We are here as friends and brothers, oi, oi, friends and brothers.
We are here as friends and brothers, oi, oi, friends and brothers.
We all sing with one another, oi, oi, oi.
We all sing with one another, oi, oi, oi.
And as friends we stick together, oi, oi, stick together.
And as friends we stick together, oi, oi, stick together.
Oh, the storms that we can weather, oi, oi, oi.
Oh, the storms that we can weather,
oi, oi, oi. Ai, 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 One more time on the English, but this time all together. We are here as friends and brothers, oi, oi, friends and brothers. We all sing with one another, oi, oi, oi. And as friends we stick together, oi, oi, stick together. Oh, the storms that we can weather, oi, oi, oi. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. May
Shabbat
this be a
Shalom.
great day for us all.